So we're going to be talking about the sponsorship system today. The sponsorship system, which is the kafala system as we call it in this region and in Lebanon, is an immigration system that is imposed on migrant domestic workers who come seeking better life and decent work in Lebanon. It is a very unfair and inhumane system that legalizes and allows for modern day slavery to happen in our houses. The kafala system enables slave like practices, infinite misery, and a lot of death to happen under our own eyes in this country and in our houses. It allows a lot of practices to go unchecked. Nobody ever comes and questions what's happening in your house, so you can have somebody take away their freedom, not pay them on time, not pay them at all, lock them up, not give them decent access to communication with other people, to food, to time off, to time out, and nobody's going to ask you a question. Kafala enables slave-like practices, infinite misery, and a lot of death to happen in Lebanon, in our houses, in our pools, in our gardens, in our cars, and it all goes unchecked. By unchecked, we mean uninvestigated. I don't have one example in my head of the last 10 plus years that I've been working on these issues, or even more, so even in the last few decades, that one Lebanese employer got held accountable or put in prison for what they've done to a migrant domestic worker in Lebanon. Kafala allows for good people, perhaps, to turn into monsters slowly, day after day, without them ever self-reflecting on themselves or their families or their children on how they're treating the worker in their house, who exceptionally, in the case of domestic workers, lives and works in the same place, and this is the house. Kafala essentially allows you to sleep every night very comfortably, knowing that there's another person, there's another human being, there's another worker, mostly in the kitchen or on the balcony, who is sad, crying, depressed, perhaps suicidal, and this doesn't really affect you. So it's not something that happens once, it's something that happens every single day, every single night, but you are that detached from that person and their feelings, so you're able to live on and sleep on without asking yourself if there are things that you need to change about this formula. Any contract under kafala is essentially one big lie, because you can't really have an employment contract between a master and their slave. No matter how you want to design this argument, there's no decent, equal employment contract between somebody who is holding the freedom of somebody else. So practically, any contract under kafala, any contract under kafala is worthless because it doesn't mean anything. If I am a domestic worker that works at X house and the people of this house violate my rights in whatever shape or form, and there's a huge spectrum of options that they could violate my rights in, I have no mechanism in place to go anywhere, to the police or to the ministry or to GS or to my embassy, if there is an embassy, to complain and say these articles were breached in the contract. So what's the point of all these words on paper? What's the point of all this ink? It's just symbolic, to say the least. So until migrant domestic workers in the country are included in the Lebanese labor law, and currently they are excluded as per Article 7, we need to name things as they are, because we're not gonna get closer to abolishing kafala if we keep on naming things in different shapes and forms. Kafala is slavery. There is no decent contract under kafala. What we have in place today in Lebanon is a rotten system that needs to be abolished from its roots. And to do that, we need to stop beating around the bush. We need to call things as they are. Kafala is very ugly and deadly. We cannot imagine rights or justice, even partial justice, for migrant domestic workers until this system is abolished and replaced by a just system that allows the migrant worker to come to Lebanon on a visa, on a work visa, just like people do in all the other parts of the world. You can't come here and be linked to the name of one person, one Lebanese sponsor, whom you can't speak against, because the minute you speak against this person, one, nobody's going to listen to you. Two, you're going to be put in jail because this person is the legal reason for your stay in Lebanon, is the reason for your residency here. So there's no space in this whole system that allows you to complain against your sponsor. So it's really a matter of luck. We're not saying that everybody in Lebanon is facing horrible conditions, although most workers are. But if you're not facing horrible conditions, it's only because you were lucky enough to randomly land in a house where you have a decent relationship with your employer, nothing more than that. It's really luck. It's just about luck. And a migrant domestic worker can be arbitrarily thrown in jail or in the detention centers, the notorious detention centers of the general security, merely because her employer had a claim against her. 90% of the cases, it's a claim of theft. However, if the migrant domestic worker has a claim against her employer, even with evidence, whether it's unpayment of wages, whether it's sexual assault, and everything in between, nobody listens, nobody does anything, nobody questions the employer. So you have these patterns of hundreds and thousands of workers that are passing through the same cycles. Most of them end up back home, if not in jail in Lebanon, and then back home without any due justice. This is what kafala allows you to do. We're not saying that all Lebanese are doing this and are enabling kafala in that sense of the word in their houses, but does the system allow you to do this at your house if you're a Lebanese sponsor? Yes, it does. So those who are not doing this are choosing not to do this. But can they all do this as per the system in place? Yes, they can. Case in point, the hundreds of workers that are being discarded and dumped on the streets in Beirut, streets, embassies, consulates, due to the crisis. Nobody's asking them anything. Nobody's holding them accountable. Nobody's asking where the passports of the workers are. Nobody's asking where the unpaid wages month on end are. Nobody's asking where's the money for the ticket. I believe there is no emancipation or I cannot even imagine what a decent future for this country would look like without me first imagining that we will be abolishing kafala as it stands today. We cannot de-link any imagined foreseeable future for Lebanon without putting an end to these kinds of practices that are happening in all our houses of our relatives, of our friends, of our neighbors. We're not talking about strangers here. We're talking about people that are really close to us. So this is an entrenched system that's all around us, and that needs to be uprooted ASAP. With it as well, the arguments of all the sympathizers of kafala that still argue that there is a way around, reforming kafala, making things, upgrading kafala, making it better, how to make life easier for workers under kafala. These people are also part of the problem.